My beloved child, stop scrolling and remain here for this moment, because something has been waiting for you in the silence, and what you are about to hear was never meant to pass you by. There is a reason your heart slowed down when your eyes found these words. There is a reason the room around you suddenly feels quieter. Heaven is drawing your attention toward a message that has been hidden beneath hesitation, fear, and unfinished conversations. Your soulmate has written a secret love letter about you, and before tomorrow arrives, there is something inside it that your spirit needs to understand. Do not move away too quickly. The letter is not ordinary. It was not written casually, and it was not created from a passing emotion. It came from a place inside your soulmate that they have kept locked for longer than you realize. They may not have placed it into your hands yet. They may not have spoken of it. They may even be pretending that everything is normal. But behind their silence, a confession has already begun. Every word they wrote carries the weight of everything they could not say while standing in front of you. This letter began on a night when they could no longer escape the truth. The world around them had grown still, yet their thoughts were louder than ever. They tried to distract themselves. They looked at their phone, walked through familiar rooms, replayed old conversations, and told themselves that the feeling would pass. But it did not pass. Your name continued to rise in their mind like a light that refused to go out. And in that hour, something inside them finally surrendered. They reached for a blank page because speaking felt impossible. Their heart had become too full for silence, yet their fear was still too strong for a direct confession. So they began to write. At first, only a few uncertain words appeared. They paused. They erased something. They started again. Their hands trembled, not from fear of you, but from fear of being completely seen by you. For the first time, they were about to admit what your presence had truly done to their life. Stay until the end of this message, because the first line of that letter is not the greatest revelation. Something much deeper appears later, and when you hear it, you may understand why the timing feels so urgent. Tomorrow represents more than another day. A decision is approaching. An opportunity may open or close. A conversation may happen that changes the direction of this connection. Heaven is not bringing this message to create fear. It is bringing clarity before a turning point. Your soulmate wrote that they remember the smallest things about you. Not only the obvious moments that anyone could notice, but the details you assumed were forgotten. They remember the way your energy changed when you were trying to hide disappointment. They remember the softness in your voice when you cared more than you wanted to show. They remember the moments you became quiet because explaining your heart felt too exhausting. They saw more than they admitted. They wrote about a particular moment when you looked away from them, believing they did not understand what you were feeling. But they did understand. They noticed the distance behind your smile. They sensed the question you never asked. They felt the invisible wall rising between you, and even though they said nothing, that moment followed them afterward. It returned late at night. It appeared in their dreams. It became one of the reasons they finally picked up the pen. The letter says, in words they have never dared to speak aloud, that losing your trust would hurt more than losing your presence. This is important, because for a long time they thought love was simply about being near someone. But through you, they learned that true connection is built in the invisible places, in honesty, patience, consistency, and the courage to remain when uncertainty appears. You awakened a deeper definition of love inside them. Yet there is something they are ashamed to admit. They know there were moments when their actions did not match their feelings. They know silence may have made you doubt what was real. They know hesitation may have looked like indifference. They know you may have wondered whether you imagined the connection entirely. In the letter, they confess that while you were questioning whether they cared, they were secretly questioning whether they were worthy of the love they felt growing for you. That is the hidden battle you could not see. Your soulmate was not only afraid of rejection. They were afraid of receiving something genuine and then failing to protect it. Past experiences taught them to expect disappointment. Old wounds trained them to step backward whenever their heart wanted to move forward. So when your presence began to feel important, their instinct was not to run toward you. It was to slow down, hide, observe, and protect themselves from the very thing they had been praying to find. But your energy reached places their defenses could not cover. You may have noticed moments when they looked at you differently, as though they were about to say something and then changed their mind. Those moments were real. The words were there. The confession was close. But each time, fear interrupted. They imagined every possible outcome. They wondered whether the timing was wrong, whether you had already moved on, whether someone else held your heart, or whether too much damage had already been done. In the letter, they admit that they have rehearsed conversations with you while alone. They have imagined calling you. They have pictured your reaction. They have practiced explaining why they disappeared emotionally, why they became inconsistent, or why they allowed pride to speak louder than affection. They have prepared entire sentences, only to lose courage when the moment came. But now something has changed. A recent event forced them to confront the possibility that you may not wait forever. Perhaps they heard your name in a conversation. Perhaps they saw you becoming stronger without them. Perhaps they sensed that your energy was no longer reaching toward them in the same way. Whatever occurred, it awakened them. It showed them that love cannot survive forever as an unspoken possibility. At some point, the truth must step out of hiding. Do not skip this part, because the letter contains an admission that even they did not expect to write. Your soulmate says they have compared every new connection to what they felt with you. They tried to convince themselves that someone else could create the same feeling. They looked for your warmth in other people, your depth in other conversations, your presence in unfamiliar faces. But each comparison led them back to the same truth. What they felt with you could not be copied. This does not mean they see you as perfect. In fact, the letter speaks of your imperfections with tenderness. They remember your guarded moments, your stubbornness, your emotional distance, and the times you misunderstood each other. But instead of weakening their feelings, those human details made the connection real. They did not fall for an illusion. They fell for the person beneath the defenses. They wrote that your strength inspired them, but your hidden softness changed them. There were moments when you carried more than anyone knew. You continued showing up while fighting private battles. You gave kindness when you were tired. You offered understanding while needing understanding yourself. Your soulmate noticed this. They may not have praised you. They may not have acknowledged it. But in the letter, they describe you as someone who survived storms without allowing the storm to become their identity. Those words are followed by a confession that brings them to tears. They believe they may have added to your pain. They know there were times when you needed certainty and received confusion. They know there were moments when a simple message, a clear answer, or an honest conversation could have brought peace. Yet they remained silent. They allowed fear to create distance. They allowed assumptions to grow where truth should have been. In the letter, they do not excuse themselves. They admit that their silence became a wound. But the letter is not only an apology. It is also a promise. Your soulmate writes that they no longer want to love you only in secret. They no longer want their deepest emotions to exist only in late-night thoughts, unsent messages, and pages hidden from the world. They want to become brave enough to let their actions carry the truth. They want to stop giving you signs that can be doubted and begin giving you clarity that can be trusted. Still, there is one final obstacle standing between the letter and your hands. They are afraid that you will read it too late. This is why the message says before tomorrow. Not because something terrible is destined to happen, but because your soulmate is standing near a moment of choice. They are deciding whether to send the letter, reveal it in person, or hide it forever. Their courage is rising, but so is their fear. One part of them believes honesty could bring you closer. Another part fears the truth may confirm that the moment has already passed. Heaven is showing you this because your heart may also be standing at a crossroads. You have grown tired of mixed signals. You have learned not to chase what refuses to become clear. You have begun reclaiming the energy you once poured into uncertainty. And this change in you is not punishment. It is growth. You are remembering that love should not require you to abandon your peace. Your soulmate can feel that shift. Even from a distance, they sense that something about you is different. You are no longer waiting in the same way. You are no longer sending the same silent invitations. You are becoming more whole, more grounded, and more willing to walk forward without answers. This has awakened urgency inside them because they now understand that your heart is valuable, and access to it is not guaranteed forever. The letter describes this realization with painful honesty. They write that they once assumed there would always be more time. Another chance. Another conversation. Another moment when circumstances would feel perfect. But now they see that love does not wait for perfect conditions. It asks for courage in imperfect moments. Pause here and breathe, because the next part of the letter reveals why they first recognized you as different. It was not only attraction. It was familiarity. From the beginning, something about you felt known to them. Your voice seemed to calm places inside them that had been restless for years. Your presence felt both new and strangely remembered. Even when conversations were simple, something beneath the words felt significant. They tried to explain it logically. They told themselves it was timing, chemistry, or curiosity. But the feeling continued to deepen beyond explanation. In the letter, they write that meeting you felt like remembering something their soul had forgotten. They did not understand it then. They may not fully understand it now. But they know you awakened a part of them that had been asleep. You made them question the life they were living, the patterns they were repeating, and the walls they had mistaken for protection. Your connection became a mirror, showing them both the love they desired and the healing they had avoided. That is why the bond has felt intense. Not every powerful connection comes only to create comfort. Some arrive to reveal truth. You and your soulmate triggered emotions in each other because the connection touched unhealed places. You may have activated their fear of vulnerability. They may have activated your fear of being unseen, abandoned, or misunderstood. Yet beneath these reactions, there was a deeper invitation: become honest, become whole, and stop allowing old pain to control new love. The letter says they now understand that you were never asking them to be flawless. You were asking them to be real. You did not need perfect words. You needed consistency. You did not need grand promises. You needed sincerity. You did not need them to know every answer. You needed them to stop hiding behind confusion. And this realization appears again and again across the pages, as though they are finally seeing how simple the truth could have been. I cared, they wanted to say. I was afraid, they should have admitted. You mattered more than I showed, they needed you to know. But the actual sentence they wrote carries even more weight. They wrote that every time they pushed you away, a part of them hoped you would somehow understand that they were not rejecting you, they were fighting themselves. Yet they now see the unfairness in that hope. You could not be expected to translate silence forever. You could not keep carrying the emotional work for both of you. This is where the letter changes. The tone becomes steadier. The hesitation begins to disappear. Their words stop circling around the truth and move directly toward it. It is as though, page by page, they become braver. And then they write the sentence that made them place the pen down and weep. They wrote, I do not want my fear to become the reason I lose the person my heart has already chosen. That sentence frightened them because it made everything undeniable. They could no longer pretend you were only a passing chapter. They could no longer call the connection temporary. They could no longer hide behind timing, distance, confusion, or pride. Their own handwriting became evidence against every excuse they had created. They had chosen you emotionally long before they were ready to admit it consciously. But there is more. Something huge is waiting for you near the end of the letter, and it concerns a promise they have never made to anyone else. Before writing it, they reflected on every mistake they had made in love. They thought about the people they disappointed, the times they fled from vulnerability, and the relationships they allowed to fade because honesty felt too risky. They realized they had spent much of their life protecting themselves from pain while unknowingly creating it. They do not want to repeat that pattern with you. The promise is not that everything will be easy. It is not a fantasy of perfection. It is something more mature, more grounded, and more meaningful. They promise that if you allow a new beginning, they will not ask you to carry the connection alone. They will speak when fear tells them to disappear. They will communicate when uncertainty appears. They will choose honesty over assumptions and effort over excuses. Yet even as they wrote this promise, they wondered whether they still had the right to ask for another chance. This is the question haunting them now. They know love cannot be demanded. Forgiveness cannot be forced. Trust cannot be restored through beautiful words alone. The letter acknowledges that you may need time. You may have boundaries. You may not be ready to reopen a door that once brought confusion. And strangely, this understanding has made their love more sincere. They no longer want to possess you. They want to honor you. They write that even if your answer is not what they hope, you deserve the truth. That is the deepest transformation happening inside them. For the first time, they are willing to be honest without controlling the outcome. They are willing to reveal their heart even if it leaves them vulnerable. They are beginning to understand that true love is not measured only by what it receives, but by the courage and integrity it brings forth. Still, the secret letter remains hidden. It may be folded inside a drawer, saved as an unfinished message, or resting beside them as they gather courage. They have read it more than once. Each time, they consider changing certain words, but the truth refuses to become smaller. They wonder whether you will recognize yourself in every line. They wonder whether you will cry. They wonder whether you will believe them. Most of all, they wonder whether you still feel anything. Your silence has become a mystery to them. The same way their silence once confused you, yours now forces them to face uncertainty. They search for signs in your smallest actions. They revisit old messages. They notice when you appear distant. They question whether your heart has closed or whether it is simply protecting itself. The roles have shifted. Once, you may have been the one waiting for clarity. Now they are the one standing before the unknown. Once, you may have replayed every interaction searching for hidden meaning. Now they do the same. This is not punishment. It is perspective. They are finally experiencing the emotional weight of uncertainty, and it is teaching them why their truth can no longer remain hidden. The letter continues with a memory they have never forgotten. It was a moment when you showed them kindness without asking for anything in return. You may barely remember it. Perhaps you listened when they needed to speak. Perhaps you encouraged them when they doubted themselves. Perhaps you offered warmth during a difficult day. To you, it may have seemed small. To them, it became a turning point. They wrote that your kindness reached them at a time when they secretly believed no one truly saw them. That moment planted something inside their heart. It made them trust you more than they intended. It made your opinion matter. It made your absence noticeable. And as the connection deepened, the possibility of losing you became frightening. Instead of responding with openness, they responded with defense. They created distance because closeness had become powerful. Now they regret mistaking love for danger. Do not skip the next revelation, because it explains why tomorrow matters so much. Your soulmate recently received advice from someone they trust. They may have spoken indirectly, never mentioning your name, yet the conversation exposed them. The person told them that waiting too long to express a genuine feeling can become a lifelong regret. Those words struck deeply because your soulmate knew exactly who came to mind. You. After that conversation, they returned to the letter. They added another page. On this page, they wrote about the future, not as a fantasy, but as a possibility. They imagined ordinary moments with you. Quiet mornings. Honest conversations. Laughter after misunderstanding. Supporting each other through difficult seasons. They did not only imagine dramatic romance. They imagined peace. That surprised them most. They realized that what they want with you is not temporary excitement. They want the safety of being known. They want the kind of connection where neither person must perform. They want to build something that survives beyond emotion and becomes a shared place of truth. But they also wrote one strange sentence that they have not fully explained. They wrote, "There is something I must tell you before anyone else does." This is where the letter becomes mysterious. There is another truth connected to their silence. It may involve a conversation, a misunderstanding, an outside influence, or a decision they made while afraid. They know this truth could change how you interpret the past. They know you deserve to hear it directly from them. And they know that if someone else reveals it first, the chance for honest healing may become more difficult. The letter does not immediately name the secret. Instead, they describe the fear surrounding it. They say they have carried it like a stone. They have wanted to confess, yet every possible opening felt wrong. They worried you would misunderstand their intentions. They worried you would believe the worst. But now they realize that hiding the truth creates more danger than speaking it. This is the real urgency behind tomorrow. A moment is approaching when silence may no longer be possible. Your soulmate is preparing to choose between fear and truth. The letter is their bridge. Every page carries them closer to the confession. Every sentence strips away another excuse. And heaven is allowing you to feel this movement because your own heart needs preparation, not to chase, not to force, but to remain grounded if the truth arrives. You are being reminded that you do not have to abandon your wisdom simply because love speaks. You can listen with compassion and still honor your boundaries. You can receive an apology without forgetting your growth. You can allow someone to explain without immediately deciding the future. Your power lies in your clarity. The message is not telling you to wait helplessly. It is telling you not to mistake silence for the final answer. Something has been unfolding where you could not see it. A heart has been wrestling with truth. A confession has been forming. A letter has been written because your soulmate reached the point where their feelings could no longer remain unacknowledged. And now the final page is waiting. On that page, they stopped speaking about the past and began speaking directly to you. No more explanations. No more hiding. They wrote your name. They paused for a long time. Then they placed beneath it a sentence that changed the meaning of the entire letter. It was not simply, "I love you." It was a revelation about why they disappeared, who influenced their decision, and what they discovered only hours ago. The truth was so unexpected that they almost destroyed the letter after writing it. But they did not. They folded the page, held it against their chest, and whispered a promise that tomorrow would not arrive without you finally knowing what happened. And just beneath that promise, they wrote the one secret that could either reopen the door between you, or close it forever.